When she left, it felt like my life was split down the middle. Half memories, half regret. I didn't know who I was without her. I didn't know who I wanted to be. But somewhere along the way, between the empty mornings and the silent nights, I found something unexpected. I found myself. Chapter 1. The day after, the morning after she left, the house was unnaturally still. No coffee brewing, no faint hum of the shower, no voice calling from the kitchen to ask if I wanted eggs or toast. Just me, standing in the middle of a life that felt like a stranger's. I checked my phone out of habit, half expecting a text, a missed call, something to anchor me to the life I'd known for 35 years. But the screen was blank. No messages, no notifications, just a cold, glowing void. The silence wasn't just loud, it was suffocating. It pressed against my chest, a reminder of the emptiness that had taken root overnight. I stood in the living room, surrounded by furniture we'd picked out together, photographs we'd framed, memories we'd built. But none of it felt like mine anymore. That's when the truth hit me like a freight train. I wasn't just divorced, I was lost. I wandered the house aimlessly, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. The kitchen clock ticked too loudly, each second a reminder that time was moving forward without her. I opened the fridge, staring at half-empty shelves, her yogurt, her almond milk, things I'd never buy for myself. I closed the door without taking anything. I didn't cry that first day. I wanted to, but the tears wouldn't come. Instead, there was a hollow ache, a sense that I'd been unmoored, drifting in a sea of uncertainty. Who was I now? What was I supposed to do with this life that no longer fit? For over 3 decades, my identity had been woven into the roles I played: husband, father, provider. Those titles defined me, gave me purpose, shaped the way I moved through the world. I was her partner, her confidant, the man who fixed the leaky faucet and planned anniversary dinners. I was the father who coached Little League and stayed up late helping with algebra homework. I was the breadwinner, the one who made sure the mortgage was paid and the college funds were secure. Now those roles were gone, or at least transformed beyond recognition. Our kids were grown, living their own lives across the country. The key house was paid off, but it felt more like a mausoleum than a home. And her? She was starting over somewhere else with someone else. So who was I when I wasn't someone's someone? The question haunted me. I'd spent so long being part of a we that I'd forgotten how to be an I. Was I still valuable without a partner to affirm me? Was I still whole without a family to anchor me? The world doesn't prepare you for this kind of identity crisis. No one tells you that divorce, especially a grey divorce, after decades of marriage, doesn't just split assets or households. It splits your very sense of self. I looked in the mirror one morning, staring at a face I barely recognized. The lines around my eyes were deeper, the grey in my hair more pronounced. But it wasn't the aging that unsettled me. It was the emptiness in my gaze. I didn't know the man looking back at me. I didn't know what he wanted, what he dreamed of, what he was capable of. And that terrified me. The weeks that followed were a blur of numbness and despair. I stopped shaving, letting a scruffy beard take over my face. I barely ate, surviving on coffee and takeout pizza. The boxes labelled hers sat untouched in the garage, a monument to my inability to move forward. Every time I passed them, I felt a pang of guilt, anger, and grief all at once. I tried to fill the void. Dating apps seemed like a logical step. Everyone said they were the modern way to get back out there. But swiping through profiles felt like a cruel parody of connection. The women were kind, some even intriguing, but I wasn't ready. I didn't know what I was offering or what I was looking for. Every conversation fizzled out, leaving me more isolated than before. Reconnecting with old friends was no better. They were kind, but their lives had moved on. Kids, grandkids, retirement plans. I felt like a ghost at their dinner tables, a relic of a past they'd outgrown. Our conversations were stilted, filled with awkward pauses and well-meaning but hollow advice. You'll find someone new, or it just takes time. I nodded, smiled, and left early, retreating to the safety of my empty house. One night I hit rock bottom. I was sitting on the living room floor, a half-eaten pizza beside me, and a cheap bottle of whiskey in my hand. The TV was on, but I wasn't. Watching it, just staring at the flickering screen, letting the noise fill the silence. I thought about her, about the life we'd had, about the moment I realized she was slipping away and I hadn't fought hard enough to stop it. That's when it hit me. No one was coming to save me. Not her, not my kids, not my friends. If I wanted a different life, a life worth living, I had to build it myself. The realization was both terrifying and liberating. It was a spark in the darkness, faint but undeniable. I started small because small was all I could manage. The first step was making my bed every morning. It sounds trivial, but after weeks of leaving it a tangled mess, the act of smoothing the sheets and fluffing the pillows felt like a victory. It was a promise to myself that today would be different, even if only slightly. Next, I started cooking breakfast. Not just cereal or toast, but real meals, eggs, bacon, pancakes. I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed the rhythm of cooking, the sizzle of butter in the pan, the smell of coffee filling the kitchen. It wasn't about the food, it was about reclaiming a piece of my day, my space, my life. Then came the walks. At first, they were short, just around the block, my hands stuffed in my pockets, my mind still tangled in regret. But over time, I went further. I noticed things I'd never paid attention to before. The way the leaves changed color, the sound of kids playing in a nearby park, the warmth of the sun on my face. Those walks became my sanctuary, a place to breathe, to think, to be. Every tiny decision felt monumental. Choosing a new brand of toothpaste, rearranging the living room furniture, buying a couch that was mine and mine alone, these were acts of defiance against the life that had slipped away. They were proof that I could choose, that I could create, that I could exist on my own terms. There's a strange, bittersweet freedom in losing everything you thought you needed. For the first time in decades, I could make choices without compromise. I could play jazz in the car without someone changing the station. I could binge a gritty crime drama without debating whether it was too dark. I could decorate my bedroom with bold colors and abstract art, things she'd never have approved of. At first, that freedom felt lonely. The house was too big, the bed too empty, the evenings too quiet. But slowly, it began to feel like possibility. I wasn't just free from her. I was free to be me, fully, unapologetically. I started experimenting with my life in ways I hadn't since my 20s. I signed up for a pottery class, laughing at my clumsy attempts to shape clay. I bought a used guitar and spent evenings fumbling through chords, my fingers aching but my heart full. I even tried yoga, stumbling through poses in a room full of strangers who didn't care that I was a 60-year-old novice. Freedom wasn't just about what I could do, it was about who I could become. And for the first time in years, I was excited to find out. There's a strange, bittersweet freedom in losing everything you thought you needed. For the first time in decades, I could make choices without compromise. I could play jazz in the car without someone changing the station. I could binge a gritty crime drama without debating whether it was too dark. I could decorate my bedroom with bold colors and abstract art, things she'd never have approved of. At first, that freedom felt lonely. The house was too big, the bed too empty, the evenings too quiet. But slowly, it began to feel like possibility. I wasn't just free from her, I was free to be me, fully, unapologetically. I started experimenting with my life in ways I hadn't since my 20s. I signed up for a pottery class, laughing at my clumsy attempts to shape clay. I bought a used guitar and spent evenings fumbling through chords, my fingers aching but my heart full. I even tried yoga, stumbling through poses in a room full of strangers who didn't care that I was a 60-year-old novice. Freedom wasn't just about what I could do. It was about who I could become. And for the first time in years, I was excited to find out. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a jagged, winding path, full of detours and dead ends. There were nights I cried until my throat was raw, mourning the life I'd lost and the man I'd been. There were mornings I woke up angry. At her, at myself, at the world for letting this happen. I had to face truths I'd spent years avoiding. I'd stayed in our marriage long after the love had faded, clinging to routine and familiarity. I'd ignored red flags, her late nights, her distance, her silences because I was too afraid of what they meant. I'd lost pieces of myself willingly, trading my dreams for stability, my voice for peace. Forgiving her was the easy part. She was human, flawed, searching for her own happiness. Forgiving myself was harder. I had to forgive the man who'd settled, who'd stopped fighting for his own joy, who'd let himself disappear into the role of husband. But forgiveness wasn't a one-time act. It was a daily choice, a commitment to let go of shame and embrace the man I was becoming. Day by day, piece by piece, I reclaimed my story. Not the story of our marriage, but the story of me. Rebuilding my life wasn't an accident. It was a series of deliberate choices, each one a step toward a future I could believe in. I moved to a new city, trading the house full of memories for a small apartment with a view of the skyline. The change was jarring, but it was mine. I signed up for a photography class, something I'd always wanted to try, but never had the courage to pursue. My first photos were blurry and poorly composed, but they were proof that I could still learn, still grow. I made new friends, people who knew me as I was now, not as half of a former couple. There was Sarah, the vibrant retiree who dragged me to salsa dancing classes, and Mike, the quiet widower who shared my love of old jazz records. They didn't pity me or try to fix me, they simply welcomed me into their lives. Every choice, no matter how small, was a brick in the foundation of my new life. I wasn't trying to recreate the past. I was building something new, something that reflected the man I was becoming. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was moving forward. Eventually, I dipped my toe back into dating, not out of desperation, but out of curiosity. I approached it slowly, carefully, with a clarity I'd never had before. This time, I wasn't looking for someone to complete me. I was already whole. I wasn't trying to fill a void. I was looking to share the abundance of my life, the joy, the passions, the hard-won peace. Dating wasn't about need anymore. It was about choice. I went on dates that were fun, awkward, and everything in between. Some women became friends, others faded into pleasant memories. I didn't rush, didn't force connections that weren't there. And whether I found lasting love again or not, I knew it wouldn't define my worth. I was enough, just as I was. If you'd told me on that first lonely morning after she left that I'd be happier 5 years later, I would have laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. Back then, I couldn't imagine a future beyond the pain, beyond the loss. But here's the truth I've learned. Grey divorce didn't just end a marriage. It forced a rebirth. It tore away the life I thought I needed and revealed the life I was meant to create. Today, I'm not just surviving, I'm living. I wake up each morning with a sense of purpose, whether it's capturing the perfect sunrise, with my camera, laughing with friends over a bottle of wine, or simply sitting on my balcony watching the city come alive. I'm not afraid of solitude anymore. I cherish it. I'm not defined by my past. I'm shaped by my choices. The pain was real and it was deep, but it was also a teacher, a guide, a catalyst. It showed me that sometimes you have to lose everything you thought mattered to find the one thing that truly does. Yourself. Voice over closing. Warm, resolute, triumphant. Sometimes you have to lose everything you thought mattered to find the one thing that truly does. Yourself.